Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Tea Time with me, Darius and Anucauskas. Today is the 20th of August 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday's afternoon session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimers. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. There's always a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay, so also just a quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, as well our JFD research page on our jfdbank.com website, where you can go and have a look at different analysis that we do on a daily basis, and I believe you can find something useful here. But for now, guys, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is the S&P 500. So looking at this picture here, you can see that yesterday we managed to travel higher. It pushed above this downside resistance line, and it opened with a nice gap here and broke this downside line. So of course all this kind of looks somewhat positive. The only thing is that in order to get more comfortable with, let's say, higher levels, ideally we would like to see a push above this 2,943.45 zone here, approximately around there, and only then we'll consider further moves higher, because until it's kind of trading below this barrier here, it could be a little bit tricky here for S&P. It may retrace back down again. It may start moving. It could start moving sideways. So that's why we will keep an eye on this level right here, the 2,945, and we need to see a clear break, and ideally a nice good close of at least a daily candle above this level in order to kind of, let's say, get comfortable with further moves higher. So looking at the cash index right now, we can see that the index is currently around the 2,915 zone, approximately around here. Still this kind of keeps it above this downside resistance line. If this of course suddenly starts dropping below the downside line, below the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and drops below the 2,894 level, then this is where we will consider a slight slide lower. So again, for now, keep your eyes on some of these key levels, and like I said, in terms of the downside, if this suddenly starts dropping below the 2,894, then we will consider a bit of a decline here. Again, as you can see by the chart, this highlighted area beneath here, the at around 2,822 is the one for us, the more important one, in order to kind of consider further declines in the medium term. For example, let's say, then we would like to see a drop below the 2,822 before kind of getting excited with further declines in the medium term. But for now, again, guys, as I said, it's still holding on, it's holding above this downside resistance line. It's not far from this key barrier near the 2,943.45. If we get a nice break above this, then yep, we will consider a move higher. But if it continues to trade below this, we will remain neutral and just continue observing the price action and wait for a clear breakthrough one of our levels here. In terms of the a few pairs now, jumping into a few pairs now, the AUDCHF. Now this is quite interesting, and basically I've talked about this one this morning, and I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on this downside resistance line and this 0.6660 level. So what I was saying, that I needed a nice good break above this level, above this downside line, before we could consider a further move higher. But as you can see, AUDCHF kind of didn't quite break it nicely, so it reversed back to the downside and is currently still balancing below this downside resistance line. Now I'm not saying that now we will move lower, but again, what you could also keep in mind that as long as this line remains intact, there is still probably more chances for this one to push further down. But again, ideally, looking at this picture right now, you can see that the pair is currently stuck within this nice range, again at the same time stuck below this downside resistance line. So if you want to consider a move lower here, maybe at least move towards the lower side of the of this range, then wait for a drop below the 0.6609 or 0.6610, approximately around there. This way the pair could potentially drop towards this 0.6529 level. So again, good potential target here. It's the lower side of this range where the pair is currently stuck at, and but again, like I said before, we could consider a possible move towards the lower side here. We would like to see a drop below the 0.6610 zone, so keep your eyes on that one. In terms of the upside, still everything remains the same. We need a clear break above the 0.6660, and then we will aim for slightly higher levels. We're not going to go drastically to the upside here. Initially, we will only aim for the 0.6740 zone here, which currently coincides with the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart. So keep your eyes on that one, guys. GBPUSD, another interesting one. So as you can see that about an hour ago, I mean, it started breaking this upside support line and then drifted lower. But as you can see, the bulls are really finding it. Bulls are really trying to fight it back and trying to keep the pair above this tentative upside support line. If they fail to do that, then we will continue aiming for lower levels here, and specifically this 1.2013 zone, which on the 11th of August acted as a very good area of support, from which, as you can see, the pair traveled a little bit higher, tested the 100 EMA shown as the green line here, and then now retraced back to the downside. Now what also you should be keeping in mind is, of course, if this if the pair stays above this upside support line and, let's say, drifts a little bit higher but maybe ends the day around here somewhere, still this could be forming a nice ascending triangle. Now again, I'm not saying that this let's say if it pops through the upper side here, it would travel all the way back to the highs again, but no, I mean, for now we're looking here from the short-term perspective. If, like I said, if this stays above this upside line and, let's say, drifts back a little bit to the upside, it might again travel back towards this 1.217675 zone, but this is the area where we will start considering slightly higher levels, and by slightly higher levels I mean the 1.2250 zone could be a nice good potential area of resistance, as it acted also here as a resistance on the 31st of July. But slightly above that we do have the 200 EMA as well, which also could play out nicely. Of course, not to mention this downside resistance line that has been running here for quite a while, and to be more specific, from the highest point of May, and even more specific, the 3rd of May. So keep your eyes basically on some of these key levels here. For now, like I said, because the bulls are really trying hard to keep this one above this upside support line. If they manage to do that, then there is a possibility we could see this one drifting maybe back up here towards the 1.2175. But if the bears take the kind of have the upper hand and push this one further down again, well, I mean, this, like I said, this increases the chances for GBPUSD to drift all the way towards the 1.2013, or even actually going to test. Finally, maybe we could see a test of the psychological 120 level. But again, like I said, first let's see what it wants to do with this upside support line. If it wants to stay below this, then there are more chances for this one to drift further down. But if it stays above, well, we will be very careful here with the upside. We will only consider initially a move towards this 1.2175, but this is the break that we need here in order to consider a, let's say, a larger correction on GBPUSD. Another interesting pair that I wanted to quickly show you, and that's Euro Aussie. Now this is trading nicely within a beautiful falling wedge formation. So as you can see here, we initially had this upside support line running from the low of the 25th of July, but that got broken. So in a way we can get rid of it, and the pair started drifting lower. Now this is where you should be very careful, because as you can see, it's currently stuck here between these two levels, roughly between the 1.6315 on the downside and the 1.6415 on the upside. So keep your eyes on this one, because if we get a nice break through the upper side of the falling wedge, then there is a possibility for this one to push further up here. But again, just for that better confirmation, ideally a push above the 1.6415 could do the trick for the bulls, and we could see this one getting lifted even higher here. Initially we'll target the 1.6515 or the 1.6620 here. That's our kind of main target for now. Again, these formations tend to break to the upside according to the textbooks, but until we see that break, we are going to continue kind of aiming lower here. But in terms of the downside, in order to get slightly more comfortable with lower areas, we will wait for a drop below the 1.6315, because this is the point where the pair is right now. That's a little bit of a tricky one, so that's why wait for a drop below the 1.6315 zone. If you want, you can even wait for a drop below the 200 EMA here, but then again, like I said, wait for that confirmation break, because like for now it's stuck here, and to be honest, it's thinking it might have a nice good big move here, either through this level, maybe even it actually could break the lower side of this wedge as well. So if it does, then we will get rid of this idea of this falling wedge. So that's why for now we're looking at this scenario. Let's see how this is going to play out, but again, of course these formations tend to break to the upside, but wait for that confirmation break, guys. USDCAD, very quickly on this one. I talked about this one this morning, and this is what I was saying, that if we see a hold up around here, and you can see that the USDCAD kind of made its way back towards this key area of resistance. So if we get a hold up near the pivot there, and we see a nice rebound, then there's a good chance we could see this one drifting further north. The only thing is that ideally we still are waiting for a clear break through the 1.3345 level here, which is the high of the 7th of August. And if we get that break, then yep, we will aim for slightly higher levels initially, like the 1.3387, but a slightly even, or I wouldn't say, but even a better one sits here near the 1.3432, and that's the high of the 18th of June. So basically, what we're waiting here for is, of course, the a break of this 1.3345. Until we get that, we're not doing anything here, because like I said, if it holds again for the third time, then we could see this one reversing and drifting back down. And what you could do here from the short-term perspective is keep an eye on this little low, and basically if we see the pair reversing back below the 1.3306, this is where we will possibly aim for this upside support line that has been running here from the low of the 18th of July, and we could see another test of that line. But if that fails to withhold and we see the rate falling below the 1.3248, now this is where it could become a little bit more interesting for the bears, and we could see this one drifting down towards the 1.32 zone, or even a little bit lower towards the 1.3172. So for now, these are the levels that we're going to be aiming for, but again, we need those confirmation breaks first. So in a way, for the upside, we're waiting for a push above the 1.3345. A nice good break above this could open the path towards higher levels. But in terms of the downside, so in the downside from the shorter term, very short term perspective, a drop below the 1.3306 could do the trick here for the bears and lead the pair towards this upside support line. But if this line breaks and the rate falls below the 1.3248, now this is where even more bears could get excited. Okay guys, I really hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. And if you want to join me tomorrow morning, as always, on my Traders Espresso, and that's 6 o'clock GMT, we'll have a look at some other instruments. We'll see how the market has reacted during the US session. So, but yeah, I hope, like I said, once again, I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice evening, guys. Bye bye.